Now to tech news, we have a lot of it this week. First, in the wake of a major Samsung smartphone recall, Google has launched its own smartphone to directly compete with Apple's iPhone. It's called Google Pixel. CNET editor Brian Tong joins me now from San Francisco to break down what is different about this new phone. Brian, so good to see you as always. Now, I know you have one of these phones, and we also have some video of a Periscope that you did unboxing it. I want to share
you guys do your homework.
Oh yeah, we want to share it with our viewers. Let's listen.
They just delivered me this. All right, do you see what this is? Y'all see what this is? Let's just do this, okay? Dun dun dun. It's the XL, everybody who's asking. All right, I'm gonna pop this open. Oh, just kidding. It came out like that. Here you go, check it out. Look at this thing.
I'm not going to ask what that little Post-it note meant, but maybe we'll get to that at the end of the interview. But what do you think of this phone so far?
You know what? I have it right here. Good thing I brought it on the shoot. You know what it is really this is now, after all the debacle of what happened with Samsung and the Note 7, this is arguably the best Android phone on the market right now. And it took a lot of people by surprise because people didn't know what to expect. This is the first phone that Google themselves has had a hand in the software and the hardware. And really the two biggest things that makes it special, because a phone is a phone is a phone, but it has the best artificial intelligence, this thing called the Google Assistant, where I can talk to it, ask it questions. It uses natural language. It's better than anything we've seen out there yet. It still has some hiccups, but it is the best AI. And then the camera is by far the best camera on any phone that's out on the market and has ever been based on tests, based on metrics, based on ratings, based on everything you can see. A lot of times the iPhone has been kind of touted as the best smartphone camera, if not the best one of them. This is now, there's no debate, this has the best camera on a smartphone.
Wow, that's a really good review. I mean, what do you think about those diehard iPhone users, though? I mean, are they going to go over to the other side and possibly give this phone a try?
Well, you know what? A lot of people, they know I do a lot of Apple coverage. I use Apple iPhones. But I think the main thing is if you're a tech enthusiast and you love tech, you always want to see the best of what the industry has to offer. And this has two things in it that offer the best that are in the industry. That's honestly got to at least get your attention. The design looks very similar to like an iPhone. No one's going to deny that, but that's also kind of in a weird way why it's still appealing. It kind of looks like an iPhone. So I think that at the end of the day, it's hard to say, oh, if you're an iPhone person, is this enough to switch to an Android phone? If you're an Android person, is the iPhone enough to switch over? They're that close right now. They're really neck and neck depending on what's important to you. But we know how the camera is important for a lot of people. But then also the Apple ecosystem is what keeps people locked in. So I think it's great that these are two phones that you actually have a hard time deciding which one might be better depending on what you need.
Yeah, I don't recall ever having to decide something like that. Apple, by the way, making its own headlines this week, as you know. All signs point to the unveiling of some new MacBooks next week. Rumors flying that these kinds of features that we can expect for laptops that really, for these laptops in particular, that haven't had any major changes in the past few years. So what kind of changes are we looking at, are we hearing about?
Yeah, when you talk about past few years, the overall design of the MacBook has not been really truly revamped in over 4 years, okay? That's a long time in tech. So people are just like, there is so much built up demand, but there's a couple things. One of them is where you normally have like your function keys, you know, the F1 and the F2, that kind of little bar on top. It's expected that Apple will be replacing that with an OLED touch bar. So think of that kind of like a digital display that you can interact and touch that will change depending on the type of application you're using. So if you're browsing the web, it'll have different functions. If you're playing music on iTunes, it'll have different functions. But it's going to be interesting to see how that translates and how well that does. We've seen something similar like this in other laptops that haven't really stuck. But again, sometimes when Apple does stuff, they have such a large audience, such a, a diehard audience that it can stick. And then the other thing is with their ports. A lot of us are still used to seeing those like rectangular USB ports, but Apple is expected to go towards the direction of USB-C. It looks more, it's like a little thicker than the port that you see in the actual bottom of your phone, but that also helps make the design a lot slimmer and more efficient. So those are kind of some of the two big things that we expect to see. But again, this keynote out of all of them that's happening on October 27th, we don't know enough. We've just heard little trickles. So to me, that's why it's really exciting. I like it when I don't know many things.
We haven't, you mentioned that it's been 4 years since they updated the MacBook. Why don't they update this as much as they do the other products?
Well, what has happened is Apple has shifted their focus on mobile devices. Quite honestly, over the past 8 quarters, PC sales in general across the industry, whether it's Apple or not, have declined. So 2 years in a row, we've seen a decline. The post-PC era that they talk about, the fact that PCs are not being purchased nearly as much is happening, and everyone's looking at phones. Tablets not as much, but really, right, you're doing a lot of your work on your phone. And so you still might have a PC, but you haven't upgraded it in 3 or 4 years. So that's where Apple's focus has been with the industry, but they still need to support the Mac line, whether it's the MacBook Pros, whether it's the iMac, because this still makes up a large percentage of their actual earnings. It's just not the all-star or the one that shines the brightest. So they're going to do something.
I was just going to say, it is amazing how much I do on my phone, as far
Right?
as just banking, shopping, the whole bit. It's really taken
Exactly.
over. Let's talk about the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo
Yes.
finally revealed its new gaming console Thursday morning. It's a preview trailer here for the long-awaited system, a successor to the Wii and also the 3DS. The new Nintendo Switch officially launches next March. So, Brian, a lot of hype about this?
Oh man, I will tell you, as someone who is a gamer, as someone who's wanted Nintendo to bring something new to the table that we can get excited about. Look, they released a trailer with no information on pricing, no information on specs. They just showed us what this thing can potentially do. It's the best way to describe it. I'm not sure if people are still looking at some of this footage, but it's like a portable tablet that has controllers on it, that can also be docked into like your TV to be used like a game system at home, but then can also be taken on the road and be used like a little mini display where multiple people are playing. It's like the ultimate portable game console based on what we've seen. But again, it's perfect, right? There's a lot of mystery, but there's a lot of excitement. But everyone kind of gets, oh man, I've never seen anything like this, and I would actually use this. I think Nintendo has always hit the sweet spot, like with the Wii. There were other consoles like, PlayStation and Xbox, but it catered really to that family and that group experience. I think this Switch is really trying to accomplish that same thing, to be different. And I don't know. I'm pretty juiced about it. My wallet. I tweeted, my wallet is staying open until March because I got to get my hands on this thing.
Well, the fact that it's so portable, because we are looking at the video that you were mentioning. I mean, I remember these game consoles. It's not something that you can exactly just pack in your backpack. Mm-hmm. This is so easy to bring around. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're like, what if you're in the car with your kids? You can just hang that screen on the chair, and they can like be quiet for the whole road trip or on the airplane trip. I could see myself. I travel a lot, I mean, much like a lot of people. Like, you just put it down while you're waiting on the plane or in the air, while you're at your gate, and just doing, fun social things with it. I think that's what makes it cool too. It can be social with family members or friends. What they have here, though, everyone can. It's one of those things where when you see it, you're like, oh, this could be special. And so I think that's the most important thing when you see this stuff. Just that, the emotional response. You're like, oh, this is crazy. So I think a lot of people, whether you're a hardcore gamer or a casual gamer, you're really curious to see what Nintendo's doing with this.
From a business standpoint, Nintendo did say that it has partnered with most of the big video game companies. And is that significant for them to be dealing with these third-party developers?
It's a big deal because what we've seen in the past is that Nintendo has released a lot of properties, like we always have Mario, Zelda, that are their own, that are really good. But a lot of times, sometimes the success or failure of a console or any game system relies on third-party companies providing games, sports games, adventure games, stuff that Nintendo isn't doing, or franchises that people know and are familiar with. So it's really important for any console when they release something new that they have the support of these software publishers. And so it sounds like they do, and that can only be good things for them.
All right. Brian Tong, a.k.a. BTZ.
BTZ, you now know it. Oh my goodness.
From CNET. Thanks so much. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Christine.